Hello everyone, welcome to today's class. It is an introduction to Fat Chance Belly Dance Style. And so how today is going to go is we're going to have about an hour to an hour and a half of class, and I'm going to give you an overview of all things Fat Chance Belly Dance Style. So we're going to start with a warm-up. We're going to go through our gratitude meditation. It's a nice moving meditation that I'll tell you a little bit about. We'll look at some of our slow vocabulary and some of our fast vocabulary of movements, and we'll be drilling those throughout the class. Now, between our slow vocabulary of movements section and our fast vocabulary of movements, I will check in on the comments for those of you that are joining me live, and I'll definitely be taking questions and answers then and also at the end of class. So keep in mind that Fat Chance Belly Dance Style, and really any dance style or any art style, is a lifelong journey, and we're always learning, we're always growing. So today, a lot of the details, we won't be able to cover all of the details in this class, of course, because it's a lifelong journey. But I wanted to give everybody just a little bit of introduction of Fat Chance Belly Dance Style and all the reasons that I love it, and basically an overview of what you would find in a first 6-week series of classes. Okay, so let's start by just talking about what is Fat Chance Belly Dance Style, and then we'll get into our warm-up. So Fat Chance Belly Dance Style, also known as FCBD Style, also previously known as ATS or American Tribal Style, and people still call it that, is a fusion style of dance that takes into account folk dances from India, Africa, Spain, the Middle East, and a lot of folk dances just from all around the world. And it's a beautiful group improvised dance style. So meaning today, for instance, we're not going to learn a choreography of movements. We're going to learn a variety of movements and how to communicate non-verbally so that we can follow each other in an improvised performance or an improvised drill. And there are dancers that dance this style from all over the world. So the idea is that you can learn this style of dance and go dance with anybody all over the world. And you might not even speak the same verbal language, but you could still dance together in this improvised dance style. So here on FCBDU, we have a variety of classes specifically for this dance style with a variety of instructors. You'll find level 1 classes, you'll find level 2 classes, advanced level classes, and even workshops on different concepts. So if you like what you see and there's something very specific that you want to dive in a little bit more on, feel free to comment and I can link a class to that in the comments below. Okay, so let's start with a brief little warm-up. I do definitely want to get into our bodies a little bit before we start moving. So come into a comfortable standing position. Go ahead and spread your toes nice and wide. Feel all parts of your feet pressing down evenly on the floor. And just take a moment and rock forward and back on your feet, just really feeling all parts of your feet. Almost like you're giving the bottoms of your feet a little massage before we start dancing. And then find your center point, your grounding point. Let's take our right foot behind our left. Reach your right arm up to the sky, but keep your shoulder away from your ears. And just side bend over to the left. Let's take a couple of breaths here. So we're engaging the inner thigh muscles for a little extra balance. You can stay soft through the knees. And we're really opening up the right side of the body by contracting the left side of the body. And let's come back through center. Switch out the feet. So now we're going to take the left foot behind the right. Reach the left arm up, but keep the shoulder away from the ears. And then a little side bend over to the right. Again, opening up the whole left side of the body by contracting the right, feeling a nice stretch, maybe even from the armpit all the way down into the hip and into the leg. And then let's come in and back through center. So we're going to reach our arms up overhead. And then we're going to cactus the arms, lift our heart, and lift our gaze. Let's do that again, and I'm going to do it from the side for you. So inhale, lift your arms. Exhale, cactus your arms, lift your heart and your gaze. And then let's inhale the arms up overhead again. Now we're going to exhale and take the hands back behind us. Inhale, open your heart. Soften your knees, and with an exhale, we forward fold. Your hands can stay at your low back or they can reach up towards the ceiling. They might even go overhead, so whatever feels best for you today. Keep a nice soft bend in your knees so your thighs are almost, or your torso is almost touching your thighs. And then go ahead and release your hands down to the floor. And let's just pedal this out a little bit. So bending one knee and then the other. But when you're here, try to keep your hips stacked over your ankles instead of taking your hips back behind you. Bringing your hands to your shins, let's inhale, halfway lift. So what I want you to do here is pull the low belly in. Think about the tailbone reaching towards the back of the room, but your crown of your head reaching towards the front of the room. And then use that extension that we just created. Keep that there. And then just hinging at the hips with a nice little soft bend in the knees. We just enhance that forward fold with that extension of the spine. And then bend the knees, press down through the feet. Wide arms as you come all the way up, hands reach overhead, and then down to heart center. Okay, so let's take our left foot back behind us. We're gonna come into a crescent lunge, and I'll do this one facing towards you. So the right foot is forward, the left foot is behind. Our right knee is stacked around our right ankle, right about over the right ankle, meaning we're not going too far out, we're not going too far in, and we don't have a huge lunge here. So if you find that your right knee is super far over your right foot, then you can just take a bigger step. That means you have more space there to take a nice step. And we're going to straighten the left leg if you can. You can always have a soft bend. But what I really want you to do is press yourself forward on the ball of that back foot. Pull the low belly in and just stand here nice and tall. So the low body is the base. The crown of the head is reaching up. And then we're going to bring our arms up overhead. Take a big inhale here. And as we exhale, we're going to bend the left knee and twist and hover. So we're doing a little low lunge here with a little twist. Inhale into that high crescent pose again. Exhale, lower and hover. One more time. Inhale, high crescent pose. Exhale, lower and hover. And then inhale that high crescent pose. Now we're going to really make that right foot our solid base. Come into that standing leg and just make some circles with that left ankle. One way and then the other. And then let's cross our left ankle on top of our right thigh. Bring your hands to heart center and just have a little seat in this little figure four. Coming all the way up, left foot down. Let's do the other side. So let's inhale, take a big inhale, reach the arms up, cactus the arms as you exhale. Inhale, reach the arms up, and then exhale as you take your hands back behind you. Inhale to open the heart. Exhale, we have that forward fold, bend in the knees. Release your hands, pedal this out. Keeping your weight over your ankles and not shifting your hips too far back behind you. Hands to the shins. Let's inhale, halfway lift. Keep that extension in the spine. As you exhale, hinging from the hips, forward fold. Press down to the feet. We rise all the way up. Hands down through heart center. So now we're going to take our right foot back behind us. I'll face you for this one. That left knee stacked over that left ankle. You know those adjustments if you need to make them. Strong through that right leg so that you're pressing yourself forward on the ball of the right foot. You can always have a soft bend in the knee, but I want you to really focus on engaging that low belly. So it's not about a back bend here. We're going to keep the spine nice and long. Inhale, arms reach up overhead. And with an exhale, we twist and lower and hover. So we're getting some strength in the legs, getting those muscles warmed up, also getting into the hip flexors a little bit. Exhale, lower and hover. Last time, exhale, lower and hover. Coming all the way back up, putting all of our weight in that left foot. Standing on that left foot as we make some circles with our right ankle. And then switch the direction. And now crossing that right ankle on top of the left thigh, hands to heart center, have a little seat. So just getting a little bit warmed up in our bodies today. Depending on the different classes that you take, you might find a longer warm up with a variety of different movements depending on the moves that you're going to be working on. Okay, and then shake that out a little bit. All right, so before we start any class, we go through something called gratitude. And this is a simple moving meditation. It stems from Indian classical dance, and this one is specifically for our style of dance. We're basically acknowledging all the things that it takes for us to come together and dance. So we're honoring the surface that we dance on, the music that we hear, our ancestors, our teachers, the people that we're dancing with. So I will walk you through this and then we will put some music on and do it together. So we're going to start with our hands at heart center. And then palms are going to face down. We're going to flip the right hand up and gesture out to the right. This acknowledges the space that we're dancing in. And then we're going to do the same thing on the left. So we're flipping the left hand up, gesturing out to the left. We're just watching that left hand, bringing it back through center. And then we're going to take our arms up overhead. Let's take our left fingers and point them forward. Our right fingers pointing back. We're going to bring our wrists together and we're just going to rotate that around. So we're just basically now taking our left fingers back and our right fingers forward. So this is a symbol of a lotus, symbol of enlightenment and learning, which we're all here to do, is to learn. And then we're going to bend the knee and take the hands to the floor. Now, if you can't touch the floor or your knees are just not going to cooperate today, then you can just gesture down towards the floor. So we're honoring and acknowledging the floor, the surface that we dance on, and our ears for the music that we dance to, and the floor again, and our heart for our ancestors. Our third eye for our ancestors, and our heart for our teachers. And then we're going to face both palms down, flip the right hand up, gesture out to acknowledge all the people that we are dancing with and all of the people that we are dancing for. Bringing that all up together. And again, hands at heart center. So I'm going to do that facing away from you so that you can watch, and then we'll put on some music. So again, hands at heart center, palms facing down. And then the right palm flips up, gesturing out to the right, coming back through center, gesturing out to the left, acknowledging the space that we dance in. Arms overhead, left fingertips forward, right fingertips back, wrists touching. Then we're going to rotate that, a symbol of a lotus blossom. Then we're going to take our hands and touch the earth, acknowledging the surface that we dance on. Our ears for the music we dance to. The floor again. Our forehead for our teachers, actually, our foreheads for our teachers, our heart for our ancestors. And then again, we gesture out to the right, acknowledging all the people that we are dancing with, and to the left, all of the people that we are dancing for, bringing all of that together, up overhead, and then down to our heart where we started. Teachers, ancestors. Okay, I'll put on a little bit of music and we'll do that together. I'll do this facing you just in case, so you can get an idea of where the hands are. Hands at heart center. So we'll go through this whole time without me talking through it, just so you can feel it. Again, we do that before every class, and it's done all around the world. So it's just a really wonderful way to ground and center and acknowledge all the aspects that it takes to bring in our focus to this dance. Okay, so let's get started dancing. We have two families of movements in our style of dance. We have a slow vocabulary of movements, and then we have a fast vocabulary of movements. So this is really important because when the music is slow, we dance this certain vocabulary, and when the music is fast, we dance this other vocabulary. So we never really mix them up unless we have a song that's slow and then it goes fast, or vice versa. So really, really important that we understand our slow vocabulary and the difference in the fast. In our slow vocabulary, we definitely are dancing along with the melody of the music. So our slow vocabulary of movements doesn't have a specific count. So you won't catch me teaching slow vocabulary as 1, 2, 3, 4, because the pace that we'll be dancing these slow movements are really going to depend on the music that you are dancing to. So in our style, we have, it's a group improvisational style. And so there is a leader of the group, and that leader can change depending on, there's some aspects of circling up and changing the lead, and then another person take over the lead. So the lead position changes. It's not ever just the person that is the most experienced or the teacher. Okay, so you have a lead of that specific section of the song or of that song. And so everybody's following the pace of that leader, and the leader is interpreting the song and the melody and the parts that they want to embellish and the pace that they want to give. And there's a whole aspect to musicality that we won't get into today, but just know that the slow is basically like a follow your leader type situation. The first thing I want to do is talk about the posture before we get into the slow, because everything is going to stem from this posture. So let's go ahead and bring our feet comfortably together. So that might be a little different for everybody, but we just don't want to have our feet too wide apart. So keeping your feet underneath you is going to help you feel a little more grounded, and you're actually going to be able to get a little more isolation in the hips that way. Toes spread nice and wide, and go ahead and feel all 4 corners of your feet pressing down to the floor. We're going to have a nice soft bend in the knees. So I'm going to turn to the side for just a moment. Soft bend in the knees is always going to be the case. If you ever hear me say, or any instructor say, your one leg is straight, one leg is bent, this soft bend is considered straight. So we never want to lock out our knees. All right, so soft bend in the knees, and then we're going to engage the low belly just a little bit, because what tends to happen is a lot of us have a more natural anterior tilt because our hip flexors are tight from sitting all day. So often when we come into this dance practice, now we need to elongate the low back by engaging the low belly. We don't want to think about it as tucking your tailbone, because then that turns the glutes on. We definitely want the glutes to be nice and soft, because we want some things to shimmy and shake when we get to that point. So just a nice engagement in the low belly. And then we're going to keep the crown of the head reaches up towards the ceiling while the hips stay nice and grounded. And we're going to contract the muscles. You can think about it as the muscles along your chole line or your sports bra line or the center of your back. We're going to engage those muscles so that the chest lifts up and not just forward. So we want a nice lifted, positive, beautiful, open posture in the upper body. So we have this beautiful presence and sense of strength and self-confidence that we're embodying with this posture. Shoulders are going to be away from the ears, and we want to go ahead and take our chin neutral. So a lot of times, again, we're kind of like this all day, right? So we need to kind of reverse all of that that's happening. Think about the back of my head, kind of like I'm going to set it against the wall behind me. So my chin comes in a little bit, not super long, but just natural, neutral cervical spine. All right, so this is our nice, beautiful posture. So a couple other things about our posture is we want to think about our elbows always being soft, and we kind of talk about our elbows being engaged. So what that means is if my arms are at my side, then they're going to be at my side with a nice openness around my torso, as opposed to my elbows being back behind me. So we want to create this beautiful negative space around our body and our torso so that as we're moving, the audience and the people that are dancing with us can actually see those movements a little bit easier. If we're just have our elbows kind of relaxed and back a little bit, or how they kind of naturally would want to fall, it doesn't have that strength and that presence and that grace that we're going for as a dancer. So think about the elbows being pulled forward. That means that the shoulders are slightly internally rotated. And where you place your hands is going to depend on you and your physical body. So I have a shorter torso, which means if I bring my hands up to my hips, it's going to create a really harsh angle here. So for me, I take my hands at around that hip crease line. For some people, that might having a nice elongated arm with a soft bend in the elbow might mean that their hands are at their hips. It might even mean that their hands are at their thighs. So go ahead and play around with that, and maybe just take a glance in a mirror when you get an opportunity and see what works best for you. Okay, I'm gonna add one more concept to this that we're not gonna get in too much today, but we do have dance angle. And what that means is if I was just dancing flat to the audience and I was doing certain movements, then the way we set up in formation, it would be a really hard sight line for some people in my group to see me, right? So the way that we dance is that we actually have a slight dance angle, meaning we're kind of, if you imagine you're in a dance box, like you're standing in a box, our toes are gonna go to the front left corner of the dance box. Typically our upper body is gonna stay open to the audience, but this changes depending on the step that we're in. But just know that if you see me today dancing at a little bit of a wonky angle or a slight angle, that I'm taking into consideration this dance angle that we use when we're dancing in a group. Okay, so let's come into posture. And then shake it out. And then come into posture. Knees soft, low belly engaged, spine nice and long, open through the chest, shoulders relaxed, elbows forward, nice level chin, and a nice soft, gentle smile. Holding this for just a couple of moments. Shake it all out, and then coming into your dance posture again. Beautiful. So it doesn't feel natural at first, but over time it will feel more and more natural for you. Okay, so the first thing I want to do in this slow stuff is to look at the arms and the hands, because this is really going to embellish and really help us express our hip movements a little bit more as well. So with our arms, if we think about our neutral dance posture here, no matter where our arms are in space, we're going to keep that soft bend in the elbows and that slight little internal rotation happening in the shoulder joint. Okay, so taking the arms out to the side and then down again. Now, again, in other classes, we'll get a lot more detailed as far as transitions and shoulder options for people with different shoulder, maybe impingements or broader shoulders. But for now, just focusing on keeping the elbows soft, no matter where the arms are in space. So even if we make an arm sweep, we want to keep the elbow engaged and lifted and let it lead the way. When we take our arm down, same thing. Internally rotated at the shoulder, the elbow stays lifted. And that's the difference between just bringing the arm up like this and setting the arm down like this. Really having the strength and the grace of the arms, the strength and the grace of the arms. So go ahead and follow me for just a few moments. With our arms. So finding your dance posture. Elbows lead the way. Let's take the arms all the way up. And then sweep the right arm in front of you. Keep that elbow lifted. All the way up, shoulders relaxed and away from your ears. Okay, so no matter where your arms are, your elbows are engaged. Okay, let's look at two more arm concepts and then we'll add some hips. So we do things called hand Florios, and they're basically, you can think about them as wrist circles. And the arms and these hand Florios, both, and even our posture, really stem and are inspired from flamenco dance in Spain. So a hand Florio is, like I said, basically you can think about it like a wrist circle. We get pretty specific with this because we use these as tools to communicate with our fellow dancers what movement we want to go into, what variation we might want to go into, where our hip is in that certain specific part of the movement. So we use our hand Florios as communication tools. This is why we're so specific in a lot of our technique, is because we use this as a way to communicate. So just like when you learn your language in school, maybe if English is your first language and you remember learning that in school, there was certain vocabulary and grammar and verbs and ways that you use certain words depending on the sentence. So you can think about our style of dance. It is a language. We use different vocabulary and we have different grammar, different accents, and different ways that we communicate what it is we want to get across. And a lot of that is based off of context. So you'll start learning some of that as we go on today. So a hand Florio, let's just start with the right hand first. We're going to keep our arm on our, we call this counter height or shoulder height. Keep this arm on shoulder height, meaning the elbow is nice and lifted. And let's just start with the pinky edge of the hand down on our imaginary countertop. All right, we're going to lift the wrist, and then we're going to set the thumb side of the hand down on that countertop. So we've just basically flipped the hand over. And now we are going to take the fingers towards the body and then just wave them around, almost like a little Miss America pageant wave here. So now we are where we started, with our knife edge or the pinky edge of the hand down on our countertop. We flip the hand by lifting the wrist and setting the thumb side on our countertop, bringing the fingertips towards our body and then waving our fingers over to the right. So we lift the wrist, set down the inside of the hand, bring the fingers towards us and wave around. Lift the wrist, set it down, wave the fingers. Yeah, one more time. Lifting the wrist, setting it down, and waving the fingers. Again, this is an intro class, so I don't expect you to have everything perfect as of day one. Just know that this comes with practice and seeing this layered with other movements. And there's an entire hand Florio class on FCBDU that you can always go in and see more detail. So let's try with the left. So the left, again, we start with the pinky side of the hand, lift the wrist, set it down, fingers towards the body, and then wave the hand over to the left. So you might notice that one hand might be a little easier than the other. Yeah, so again, starting with the pinky side down, lifting the wrist, setting the thumb side down, fingers in towards us, and then wave the hand around. And again, lift, set it down, wave the hand, lift, set it down, wave the hand. One more time, lift, set it down, wave the hand. Nice. Okay, so let's do both hands at the same time. Now we're gonna get crazy. So the pinky edge down on our counter height, keep the elbows lifted, the wrists lift up, the thumb side sets down, the fingers come in towards us, and then we do that little wave so that we return where we started. Lift, set it down, fingers, and wave. One more, lift the wrist, set the thumb side down, fingers come in towards us, and we wave. So we are going to use this in our first and second slow movement that we do. Actually, all of our slow movements that I show you today, we're going to use these hand Florios in different ways. Okay, shake that out. One last arm movement, and then we're moving into the hips. And this is our arm undulations. So if you've done other belly dance styles, you might have heard these called snake arms. But basically, this is a beautiful undulation with the arms. There's a lot of detail to this, so I won't get into it too much today in this introductory class. But what I want you to think about is the rotation in the shoulder, making the arm movement happen, but keeping the shoulders relaxed. So we're not lifting the arms like this, right? We're not focused on shifting the arms out this way. It's just a slight little internal rotation of the arm, and then relax the arm back down to our countertop. We're doing that with both sides, and we're alternating. So it doesn't have to be a very big move. The hands just kind of come to either the ear or the top of the head level, and they don't go any lower than our counter or shoulder height. So let me do this away from you so that you can see. Keeping in your dance posture is going to help you keep your arms lifted. Okay, so now that we are professionals and we have all of these arm movements nailed down for our slow movements, let's put in some hips and then add in the arms to that. So one of the things that I love about this style of dance is there's so many isolations. You're just always kind of learning how to get into your body a little differently. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a toxine, which is a figure 8, and it looks like this. So in some styles of belly dance, you hear these called a Maya or a figure 8. We sometimes will call this a figure 8, but it's known mostly as a toxine. Okay, so for our toxine, we want to come into our dance posture. So go ahead and come into your dance posture. And let's put our weight in our left leg, soft bend in the knees. Put your weight in your left leg and then bend your right knee a little bit more so that hip drops down. So now I have just like a little bit of weight in that right foot, barely, just enough to make sure that I'm not gonna fall over, right? Just enough to help me balance, but like I've just released that right hip down to the floor. Now I wanna use my obliques on the right side to contract them and pull that hip back up. So I'm lifting the hip back up with those obliques. Once my hips are level, I'm just gonna shift my weight over to the right, release my left. Remember, both knees are always soft. I'm just releasing and bending the left knee a little bit more this time. And then using those obliques, contract to pull that hip up and then back to center. Yeah, and then shift my weight to the left and we do that again. So release the right obliques, relax and elongate, and then we contract them. We come into our standard dance posture, so we're kind of coming through the center line, and then we switch it. So we're doing the left side now. Left side drops, we lift the hip, come back through center. So think about doing the entire right side first, centering your weight, and then shifting so that you're doing the whole left side next. All right, shifting the weight, right, and then left. And then I'll do this away from you. So starting in your dance posture, that means your arms are going to be nice and down by your sides, but the elbows are still engaged. And then release all the weight from that right side, engaging the obliques to lift the hip, and then we switch. Now, we can add hand Floreo to this, which means we will just go ahead and stop your toxine for a moment. We'll do the hand Floreo and add it in. So bringing our left arm to our counter height, our shoulder height, we're going to keep the right arm down by our side, and we're going to lift the wrist and set the wrist down so that our thumb side is on our countertop. As we do that, that right hip is going to drop. So that right, basically the thumb falling down, or the wrist, I like to think about it as the wrist coming to the right hip is down. That helps me coordinate the two together. And then as I lift this wrist up, my fingers are going to come in towards me. And then as I do my little wave and take my fingers over to the left, my left hip is going to drop down. And then I lift and I start again. So when the wrist is dropped down towards the right hip is down. When the fingers are towards the left hip is down. And this is how we link these together so that if you could see my hand and not my hips, or my hips and not my hand, you would know what the other one is doing. And because of the way that we situate ourselves in group improvisation, we are not going to do this movement with a right arm Floreo or right hand Floreo, because we're going to be open to the audience and we don't want to block the audience off with that right arm. So we're just going to do it on the left, with the left hand but both hips. Okay, I'm going to add in one more option and then we're going to drill all of this together. The other option for a toxine is to layer on the arm undulations. So let's do that together. I'll do it facing away from you. It might be a little bit easier. Let's bring our arms at our shoulder height, engaging those back muscles to help lift the chest. That's going to help the arms stay at counter height a little bit easier. Keep the elbows lifted. Now, want to think about this in terms of opposition. So as that right hip drops, that left elbow is going to lift. And I think about that left elbow and the right hip being as far away from each other as I can get them. And then I'm going to switch. So as my left hip drops, my right elbow lifts. So I have this beautiful, long opposition happening. And again, because my arms are very specific with my hips, then if you can't see one or the other, you at least know how to stay in sync, because based off of where the arms are, you know where the hips are. And based off the hips, you know where the arms are. Keeping your weight more in your heels, because the tendency is when you're thinking about things, you kind of grip your toes and your weight goes forward a little bit. So just make sure that you're settled back into your heels a little bit more. Okay, let's put this to music. Try it out with me. Let's see how it goes. So find your dance posture. Toes spread wide. Feel all four corners of your feet. Knees nice and soft. Low belly engaged. Let's start with some arm undulations. Now, we're going to drop the right arm down by our side and fall right into the hand Florio with this left hand. And let's lower this left hand down. Pause the toxeme and let's do some arm sweeps and arm circles. You can even add a hand Florio to these arm sweeps. Hands down by the side, but let the elbows stay up the whole time. And then fall right into that toxeme. Hand Florio. Arm undulations. And this transition can be a little tricky, so just fall into it when you can. The transitions are something we go into a little bit deeper in our level 1 classes. Arms down, elbows still stay engaged. Pause the hips. Beautiful arm sweeps. If the hand Florios are a bit much, that's okay. Just focus on the arm circles. And let's work on arm undulations, and then we'll add the hips in just a moment. So let the rotation happen from the shoulder. Let the elbows stay lifted and the hands nice and soft. Now we can add in the tuck seam. Bringing the arms overhead to finish. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, so again, crash course, introduction class. So those are some of the options that you can do with a tuck seam. And a tuck seam is, like I said, you'll see that in many belly dance styles, sometimes called a figure 8 or a Maya. So just in our style, remembering that it's all about the down to up action, and we're not swaying out side to side. So we really love isolations and really like engaging the muscles to make everything nice and slow and gooey. So that's how we do our figure 8, our tuck seam. Okay, so let's move on to another slow movement that I wanted to share with you all today, and that is the body wave. So the body wave looks like this. So it's a beautiful undulating movement from top to bottom. And we have options for our hands and our arms, which we'll go through a couple of those today as well. Okay, so for a body wave, remember I was talking about dance angle briefly a little bit earlier. For a body wave, we actually want to make sure that we are angled a little bit more towards our audience because we want them to see this undulation that's happening. If we did this towards our audience, it's going to look more like a belly roll, and we just really want to showcase that it's an undulation. So we're going to turn a little bit more towards our audience for that. And let's just bring our hands down to our neutral posture for just a moment as we go through this. So we're going to start in our dance posture. Now, with our body wave, what we're going to do is we're going to shift our shoulders forward just a little bit, kind of thinking about coming forward from our center line. And then we're going to take our shoulders back behind us, almost like they were coming on an imaginary wall. And I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see. Then we're going to roll one vertebra at a time down an imaginary wall, just into the hips a little bit, and then coming into our neutral space again. All right, so let's do it. Body wave, we're going to shift forward just a little bit, just the chest, kind of like opening, taking the shoulders back behind us and rolling it through our hips. Coming through center for just a moment to reset, and then starting with another one. Keeping the knees soft. So the body wave can be super shallow. The more of a kind of start that you give it, that means the deeper we're going to go. But for today, we're just going to keep it nice and shallow. Nice, beautiful undulation. Knees nice and soft. So just letting it undulate a little bit through the hips. What we're not going for is this big old movement, right? So we like these nice, beautiful, small isolations. So definitely just keeping it beautifully small. And that is going to get you that beautiful look and aesthetic that we're going for, as opposed to making like these really big movements. All right, so for this movement, I want you to really think about the knees being soft the whole time. So even when the shoulders go forward a little bit and you lift the chest a little bit more, we want to make sure that the knees are still staying soft as opposed to this. Yeah, so knees are always soft. Okay, and one of the options that we have to add on the upper body is going to be this left arm, once again, that hand Florio. So the right arm is going to stay by the side. The left arm, we're going to start in our hand Florio posture. As the chest lifts and the shoulders just come a little forward, that's when the wrist lifts. And as we set our shoulders back on our imaginary wall, that's when our wrist sets down. And then we roll through that undulation as our hand does that little wave, and we start again. Lifting, setting down, rolling through. Lift, settle, roll through. We'll do it from the back. Lift, shoulders back, roll through. Lift, back, roll through, lift, back, roll through. Last time, lift, back, roll through. So that's going to be option 1 with our body wave. The second option is going to be both arms up. So that means this left arm is going to be at our counter height. And for both the body wave and the tuck seam, you'll notice that the arm comes in a little bit. So if I show you from here, the arm is in a little bit as opposed to out here. So the arm is in a little bit. This right arm is going to be overhead. But anytime we take our arms overhead, we want to make sure that that elbow stays back because we don't want to block off our face from the audience. So the left elbow is going to be up and on our shoulder height or counter height, and our right arm is going to be up, but the elbow is going to be pulled back. And we're going to do this with a body wave and a hand Florio with both hands. And it's the same concept. So if you think about if we just did it with the left hand, the wrist lifts when the chest does, that's going to be the same with the right. And then set it down and roll through. Lift, set back, roll through, lift, set back, roll through, set back, and roll through. Okay, so let's put on a slow song and let's do a lot of body waves, and we'll incorporate some tuck seams and some arm sweeps and arm circles so that you can kind of see how it works all together. All right, here we go. Just want to make sure that I'm not frozen here. All right, here we go. So follow along the best that you can. Find your dance posture. If you're familiar with dance angle, go ahead and find that as well. Let's start with our arms down for a moment and go right into our tuck seam. Adding that hand Florio. Arm undulations. Now, body wave. Right arm's going to come up. We're going to angle just a little bit more so we can showcase that undulation. If any of this is a little too much, then just hold the arms in place. Don't worry about the Florios. Just focus on the body wave. So just pick one thing if it's a little too much. It's okay. It's an introduction class, so I'm throwing a lot at you in a short amount of time. Bring the right arm down, keep that left arm going with the body wave. Arm sweeps. You can add those lovely Florios. Notice that the pace of everything is really just depending on the music. So we don't have a count to our slow movements. Body wave. Tuck seam with hand Florio. Arm sweeps. right into a body wave. Yay! Yay, you did it! Okay, so we've covered a lot so far. To just kind of quick recap, what is FCBD Style, or Fat Chance Belly Dance Style? Group improvisation with inspirations from folkloric dances from pretty much all over the world, focused mainly on India, Spain, North Africa, and the Middle East. We went through our gratitude meditation, which is a lovely way to just pull us and center us in and acknowledge all the aspects of dance that it takes to show up and do this, right? The surface we're dancing on, the music, our teachers, our ancestors, the people that we're dancing for, and the people that we're dancing with. And then we looked at our posture, our arm pathways for our sweeps or our circles. Just that word is interchangeable, sweep or circle. We worked on hand Florios, and then we layered those arm movements with 2 different body movements. We did our hips and our figure 8, and we also did our torso and our undulations. So lots of variety there. So let's take a moment, grab a sip of water. We're actually going to go right into our fast movements. So I want to share with you some fast concepts, as well as our foot positions, and hopefully we'll get through 4 fast movements today. So grab a sip of water. I will just check this live feed and make sure everything is still going strong here. Okay, so our fast vocabulary movements, our switching gears, our fast vocabulary movements are definitely danced on the beat. And every beat is going to have some kind of gesture or body movement that's going to be on that beat. Now, the really cool thing about our style of dance is most movements, or actually all movements, are going to start with some kind of step or gesture on the right and end with some kind of step or gesture on the left. And that means that the right foot is always free on the next beat for that next movement to switch it out. So you'll learn this as we go, but it's a really amazing part of the group improvisation is that you can easily flow from one movement to another without having this funky little foot pattern that you have to, like, a little hiccup or something. It just gently smooths one foot from the other, because if I'm doing my undulations, which we'll learn our Arabic step or our undulation step, and then all of a sudden I'm doing my pivot bump step, and then all of a sudden I'm doing my Egyptian step. So there's it just kind of flows from one to another because we have these rules and these processes where things start on the right and end on the left. We also have 3 different foot positions. So all of our fast movements stem from one of these 3 foot positions. Sometimes they switch up in the middle of the movement, but both feet can be flat. You can have one foot flat and one foot on the ball. So some of the movements will have this. They even alternate, which is one of the movements we're going to learn today. Or you could have both feet on the ball. So all of our movements stem from one of those foot positions. So that makes it a little bit easier for us. So we are going to look at 4 steps. I want to show you our pivot bump step. our Egyptian step, or our twist hip swivelly step, our Arabic step, or our undulation. It's kind of like our body wave that we did in slow. And then we'll end with our shimmy step. Now keep in mind, we also play finger cymbals with all of our fast vocabulary. Today we won't incorporate finger cymbals in, but know that in Fat Chance Belly Dance Style, that is a staple, that we're always wearing our finger cymbals and using them and playing them when we are dancing fast movements. So we're going to start with our pivot bump. So this is going to be one of those movements where the left foot is flat and the right foot is on the ball. And this is one of our most simple movements. We're going to count this as a 2 count step. So what I want you to do is keep both knees soft, and we're going to press into the ball of the right foot and lift that hip up on the beat, and then we're going to release it. So this is mostly a right focused hip, but know that there's action happening on the left because we want to keep that left knee soft. So the quadriceps of both legs are working here. We're using the knees kind of like pistons so that we're not bouncing our head, right? So if we were balancing a sword or a basket on our head, we would easily be able to keep that head level. So again, left foot is flat, right foot is on the ball. We want to keep our feet fairly close together. So if I'm turned towards you, whatever's comfortable here, we just don't want to take our right foot out so far because that affects how this thigh bone, how this femur bone goes into that hip socket, and it actually impacts that hip movement, okay? So keeping that right foot in fairly close. I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see what's happening here. On the beat, we're going to press down to the floor and lift the hip up. So the hip lifts on the beat, and we're going to count this 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So try to keep most of your weight on your left so that you're not pressing so much weight into the right ball of the foot. The left foot is your base. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now what we're going to do with the arms is we're going to take our arms overhead. We're going to sweep this right arm down, so our arm sweep that we did, and then we're going to take that right arm to our countertop, and that is going to be the cue. Hey, we're going into this hip bump. Is we start this arm sweep as we start the hip bump. And then we can actually even switch arms so that now our right arm is up and our left arm is at our countertop. So we did this for our body wave, right? That same arm position. And then we can switch them again and then switch. So I'll do this facing away from you so that you can see. So right foot on the ball, left foot flat, hip bump. And the amount of time that right arm takes to come down is typically going to be depending on what your leader is doing next or how fast the song is. It's the hip that is actually going to be on the beat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. The arm can go faster. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. But it's all about the hip being on the beat. And we call this a pivot bump because it can actually pivot in place. Now, when we pivot, we're checking in with our other dancers, and this is called flock of birds. So if I'm in a hip bump or pivot bump, and I start to pivot just by keeping that left foot flat and on the and between every count, I'm taking my right foot in another spot, right? And 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. So I'm just pivoting around on my spot. I'm actually going to follow whomever can't see anyone else. So if we were set up in a formation, which we're not going to cover today, but just know that as I pivot around, I'm going to check in with everybody as I go around so that we continue moving in one unit instead of anything specific like we're here on the 2 and we're here on the 3 and we're here on the 4. It's just more organic to follow whomever can't see anyone else, and you end up going around in a nice, beautiful pace because you're still staying with the hip being on the beat, but you're moving around together. Okay, so let's put a little bit of music on so you can see what it's like to dance on the beat to a fast. This is a 90 beats per minute melody pattern. Okay, so find your posture. Let's take our arms overhead. Remember, the shoulders are relaxed, the elbows are pulled back. And here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's pivot around. I know you can't really see me as you go towards the back, so just pivot around in a circle, and then when you come to the front, we meet together. We can switch the arms, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then pivot. So it's nice to look over your left shoulder so that you're looking where you're going, so you can easily follow the people as they come into your view. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then start to pivot. Usually this pivot is about 8 counts. We do have a faster pivot that we can do because it tends to fit in with the music best. But sometimes it might take 6 counts or 10 counts, and that's why we just follow as we go around. Your arm can sweep again. The arms have a little leniency as to the pace of them. The lower body, as I said, is all about the beat. Keep the right foot on the floor if you're not pivoting. You don't have to lift that foot up every time. That uses a lot of unnecessary energy. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Switch our arms. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, nice. So that movement tends to be a nice go-to movement if you've just kind of changed up your formation and you have a new lead and you want to do something kind of quick and easy to pivot around and make sure everybody's in their right spot, and then you can change up. But again, that comes into some of the things that we go into later classes. So how to change the lead, what to do when new formation is in place, what movements work best in that new formation, all of that great stuff. Okay, so the next movement I want to share with you is an Egyptian basic or basic Egyptian. And this is a beautiful twisting hip movement with an opposition arm movement. And this is a 4-count movement, and it is one of, again, where our left foot is flat and our right foot is on the ball, but we're actually going to alternate this to where then our right foot is flat and our left foot is on the ball. So the way that this movement works is we want to start in our dance posture, always, and we want to take our right toes and kind of point them. If I was on a clock here, my right toes would be at about 2 o'clock, okay? And then I'm going to swivel my hip up and kind of over, and so now my toes and my knees are at 12 o'clock. And the idea there is that it's super safe on your knees with your toes and your knees staying in line, but this is lifting your hip up and over. So it kind of goes over at a diagonal. Some of my teacher friends also say they imagine bouncing a ball from your hip over into that corner, right? So I'm bouncing a ball on that side, and then I set that right foot down and I do it on the other side. So now my toes point at about 10 o'clock, rotate in, so that now they're at 12 o'clock, and at that time, my left hip comes up and over into that right corner. Okay, so let's do that with a count. So we're going to start with both feet flat, and then we're going to go and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. So we twist on the 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're twisting on the odd number, if you will. 1, 2, 3, 4. So our toes are planting on the and. We're twisting on the 1. We're setting the right foot down. Twist, 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 twist. Yeah. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You have to do the right side and the left side, and then the movement is done, and you can continue with the same movement, or your right foot is free to then say maybe go into something else. Now there's an upper body posture to this and an arm movement to this as well. So we're going to have our arms overhead, creating this nice beautiful frame because our elbows are still bent. We want to keep our hands fairly close together, so we don't want them to be like goalpost arms, like we're like, hey, look at us. We just want it to be nice and soft and rounded. And as our right hip comes up, we want to take, let's turn to the side so you can see, we want to take this right elbow back, this right arm back a little bit. So as I take this right arm back, I think about my right shoulder blade kind of coming in and down a little bit. I want to make sure that I'm not just bringing my right elbow down. I'm taking my right arm back behind my ear and then returning it. So it's going back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, right? As opposed to here and here. It's going back and here. Okay, so as I take that right arm back, this left one's going to come forward just a little bit, just to kind of offset that. So this is going to be the right side. And 1 and 2, both arms come back to neutral. And 3, we do the other side, and 4. So you can think about it as showcasing off that hip. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do it away from you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Here's a transition. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Pretty fun, right? Pretty neat how that all works together and how you're able to transition between movements because you are ending on the left or your right foot is free for the next beat. Let's put those two together, and keeping in mind that we do normally play finger cymbals. So if finger cymbals are something that you are familiar with or you've been doing this style of dance before, go ahead and grab your finger cymbals. And I'm going to put on this 90 BPM song again, and we'll go into that Egyptian basic, and we'll also throw in the pivot bump. Okay, here we go. Find your posture. Let's start with our arms overhead. 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Here we pivot. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Arm switch. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Egyptian step. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Pivot bump. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'll count the pivot around at 8 counts, so that just know that on 8 you'll be facing me again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Egyptian. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, yay! All right, so we're getting there. Yeah, we're getting there. A few little, now we've got 2 fast movements that we can do, and you can tell that they're on the beat. And as I said before, each movement has a specific count. So you have to do the full movement before you change it so that the people that you're dancing with are expecting it, okay? Now, we're gonna go over 2 more steps. And I want to share with you that everything that I'm showing you today is just an introduction class. Again, just an introduction. So we actually have 4 families of fast movements. So we have everything, structured and compartmentalized, which for my accounting brain works out so great because I feel so much more creative and free knowing what the structure is and why. So in our fast vocabulary of movements, we have 4 families. We have our pivot bump family, which is this is the core movement, but know that we have other options here. There are a lot of options in that pivot bump family and combinations that we can do. We have our Egyptian family. So this is the core movement that what we just did, but know that there are turns that we can do with this. There are triple turns that we can do with this. We can travel forward and back. We even have spins that come out of this family of movements. And then the next family of movements that we're going to look at, the core movement, is the Arabic step or the fast undulation step. So this step is going to be both feet on the ball. Now, in our style of dance, when we say on the ball, we really want you to just lift your heels a little bit, right? So we want this dance to be accessible for everyone. So if you can't dance in releve or at the balls of your feet, it's completely fine. We just want you to lift your heels. Now, the natural tendency is when you lift your heels to want to straighten the legs, right? Because the only time that we're standing on the tips of our toes in everyday life is because we want to make ourselves taller to reach for something. So our muscle memory is, oh, balls of feet, I can help you. But we have to tell our bodies no, I just want to lift my heels so that I'm dancing on the balls of my feet, but I want to stay in that dance posture, which means my knees are soft, low belly engaged, open heart, soft shoulders, okay? So our Arabic family of step is that undulating step. So we're going to kind of angle a little bit more to our audience, and it's going to be a 2 count step. Let's look at the feet first, and then we'll add the undulation. So our feet are going to step right, left, right, left. Now, when I come to the balls of my feet, I typically will have my right foot a little more forward than my left for stability. Totally fine, but keep your feet as close together as you comfortably can. So we're going to step right, left, right, left. And this is 1, 2, 1, 2. Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. Now notice when I step, I'm stepping in place. I'm not rocking my weight forward and back. Yeah, I'm not stepping forward and back. I'm staying in place. I'm simply moving my feet, or I'm simply stepping on my feet in place. So if I had little, I don't know, if I just want to make sure that I'm stepping in the same spot every time, that's going to help with your balance and your stability here. Okay, so as I step with the right foot on count 1, my chest is going to lift. Now we remember this from our body wave, right? Our chest is going to lift at the beginning of the step. So count 1, our chest lifts. Keep the shoulders relaxed. We're going to undulate on the and between the 1 and the 2, and on count 2, we're going to end up in our dance posture, but on the balls of our feet. So it's going to look like this. 1 roll down, 2. 1 roll down, 2. 1 and 2. 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Now when we add the undulation, it's going to be harder to not rock forward and back. So really just think about the heart going up and then roll it down, up, roll down, up, roll down, up, roll down. And we'll do it from the back. Up, roll down, up, roll down, up, roll down, up, roll down. Try to keep the shoulders nice and broad and staying in the same place. So we're not trying to fly away here with our shoulder blades. We're just trying to keep the undulation happening as an isolation in the spine. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And our arms for this are actually going to be overhead for today. There are options, so we're going to take our arms overhead for today. So the cue for an Arabic step is that wherever our arms are, so whatever step we're coming out of, let's say we're coming out of an Egyptian step, we're going to plunge our arms down as we start the Arabic step. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So they end up overhead. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now we can pivot with this. I won't get too detailed into this today, but I'll try it out in the drills that you can see. So today we'll just pivot to the left with this one, but no, it can go both ways. And you may even see me drop my left arm down, kind of like a guide to say, hey, y'all, we're going to turn towards the left. Okay, so the cue, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's put that together with what we already have and see how it goes. Okay, so we're going to do the hip bump, pivot around with it, the Egyptian step, and the Arabic step. All right, here we go. 5, 6, 7, posture. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now try to follow along without me talking through it. So you danced a whole song so far. I mean, you've danced a few of them, but we did a whole song improvisationally with 3 different movements. So you can imagine learning our entire vocabulary plus combinations, plus duet combinations and all the things that we have. I mean, there's so much to learn, but you can see, like, just after an hour, you're like, okay, I can see how this can be a group improvisational dance. And we're just looking at the foundations, like super basics of this all. So just know that there's more detail if that's something that you love. There's definitely a lot more steps that you can learn. Okay, so we're here at our final step, and of course it would not be an introduction to any kind of belly dance class if we didn't do the shimmy step. So know that in belly dance there are as many different types of shimmies as there are types of belly dance. So in our style of dance, we are mostly going to do a 3/4 shimmy. So we won't get into too much detail of that, but what I want you to know is that instead of just standing here and alternating like this kind of a shimmy that you might see in some belly dance styles, we actually want to make sure that we can walk around with our shimmy, that we can add different movements and isolations to this. So we do our shimmy on the balls of our feet, same concept as when we were in our aerobic step. Knees are soft, still in our posture. And we're going to step right, left, right, left. So the same thing that we did with our aerobic step. It's a 2-count movement. Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. That right foot can be slightly in front of the left so that you have some better balance. So now what I want you to do is I just want you to kind of be sassy with your hips. Yeah, so when you step into the ball of the right foot, the right hip goes up. And when you step into the ball of the left foot, the left hip goes up. Right, left, right, left. We're getting there. This is just the beginnings of the shimmy, right? Left, right, left, right, left, right, left. So if you don't get your shimmy today, it's totally fine. My teacher used to say that there is a shimmy fairy, and you kind of just have to wait until that shimmy fairy comes and blesses you with your shimmy, because one day you're just going to go, oh, I feel it, I get it, and it just kind of happens. It's kind of like, I feel like I had to learn whistling that way, you know, where you tried and you tried and you tried, and then one day you just did it and you were like, oh, and then you kind of were able to hone in on it from there. So I feel like shimmying is that same way. So we're going to be on the balls of our feet and we're going to step right, left, right, left. So keep going. And what I want you to do here is I want you to relax your glutes so much that you might even feel them flapping a little bit. You might even feel a little bit of a shake here. So what the shimmy is essentially exaggerating that little extra flap or that little extra bounce that happens when we relax our glutes. So you're adding a little up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up to your shimmy. But I really just, if you just step right and left and right and left, then you start kind of feeling that extra bounce, and then you can start kind of playing with that extra bounce to feel it out. And that's where the concept of the 3/4 shimmy comes in. Because you're going up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, as opposed to up, down, up, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, up, down, up, instead of just this, right? We actually have a couple of little bumps happening on each hip. 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E. Yep. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. The shimmy, I know it looks like it should be a lot easier than it is. And the trick is to not try so hard. And I know that that's like not the ideal type of thing that you want to hear, that some people want to hear. But what I'm going to tell you is I want to encourage you to relax into it. Even if you have to come off the balls of your feet for today or for a while and just step and really focus on relaxing your glutes. Because when we're lifted on the balls of our feet, our body's tensing a little bit to help us balance. So if you're not quite feeling it, just flatten your feet for today. And our arms are going to be really easy for this shimmy that we're going to do today. Our arms are going to be at counter height. And there's a lot of variations depending on the shimmy step that we go into. But for today's just basic shimmy, our arms are going to be at shoulder height. Okay? So let's put all of this together. Even if you're like, I don't quite get the shimmy, it's an intro class. I just want you to move. I just want you to see what the possibilities are. And all of these movements are broken down even more in all of like a level 1 class. So even if it's a series of classes. So let's get started. So let's bump this up a little bit too. We are going to, let's do 100 BPMs of our belly rhythm. And I am going to put my finger symbols on so that you can kind of get an idea of, you won't really be able to hear them too much. I have them muted for the sake of video because sometimes it's a little bit jarring, but you'll at least kind of get the idea of what the hands are kind of moving and doing while we are dancing. Okay, here we go. All right, so follow along best you can. I'll give you a few little cues and clues as we do this. So starting in your dance posture, always 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Here we go with a shimmy. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shimmy. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Arabic step. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, follow along. Here we go. Okay, super fun, super fun. So that was a lot to put into like a 90-minute class, but again, it's an introduction to Fat Chance Belly Dance Style, and you can learn a lot more on FCBDU.com. So we learned, again, to recap, we learned a little bit about Fat Chance Belly Dance Style, like what is it even? We learned about our posture, our gratitude, which we start every class with, the concept of the slow movements being on melody and not on the beat. We learned some arm pathways and hand pathways. We layered those with a toxine, which was our hip movement, and also a body wave, which is an undulation of the torso. Then we moved on to fast. We learned about the fast steps and how there's a whole vocabulary of fast, and they are on the beat, definitely, and they're on one of 3 foot positions, and also that they start with some kind of gesture on the right and end with some kind of gesture on the left, so that the right foot is free for the next one. We learned the basic foundational movement of our pivot bump family. We learned the basic foundation movement of our Egyptian family, of our Arabic family, and of our shimmy family. So we covered a lot. I hope that you got a little bit of taste of Fat Chance Belly Dance Style. And again, just know that there's a world of dance out there, of movements, finger cymbals, props, combinations, duets, trios, formations, chorus. There's so much more out there, but this will just give you a little bit of an idea, and I encourage you to just get out there and learn some more. So thank you so very much for joining me today. I hope that you had a wonderful time, and I hope that I will see you again in classes. Have a great day. Bye.